And hello, everybody. You have arrived at Startup Two Rivers Week for Manitowoc County. My name is Todd Nielsen. I am the co-founder for Two Rivers Biz Starts and Two Rivers Talks, and very involved with entrepreneurship here in the Manitowoc County area, as well as the New Launch Alliance. We are proud to be a part of the Startup Wisconsin Week of celebratory interviews and conversations, panels, ideas and inspiration that we're hoping you get out of this particular event. As we go ahead and get kicked off here, we are streaming live simultaneously on Facebook and YouTube. If you have questions, comments, ideas, we are more than happy to entertain them. We will be watching that as we go on and get into the panel here in just a moment. And before we get started here, I just wanted to welcome one of my co-conspirators in putting this event together, Mr. Jeff Soxie. Jeff, welcome. Great to see you this evening.
Great to see you, Todd. Hello, Internet. It's great to kick off yet another year of Startup Wisconsin Week and the second year of Startup Two Rivers, because gosh darn it, the startup community on the Lakeshore needs to be represented.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And you were just in an event a little earlier this afternoon, correct? This isn't your first Startup Week event.
Yeah, this is actually event number 2. I was actually helping our friends down at the Surge in Sheboygan County discuss, why they're another great community for entrepreneurs.
All of us along the Lakeshore here, we're primed for growth and excited to really foster the ideas and inspiration necessary to get startup businesses rolling here. Nick O'Brien, I know, who organizes the events down there, does an amazing job as well. So just a quick shout out to him. Jeff, your own work that you've done here in the Manitowoc County area has been around something called Light Up the Lakeshore Business Idea Competitions. You've done a couple of these, and I've been honored to be involved with you for some of those. Are there plans coming up to do some more with those in the near future?
Yeah, actually, well, at our next event next Monday, we'll be announcing, the start of the 2021 business idea competition. Really excited to see what our high schoolers from around the county have as ideas this year. And on Monday, we'll be talking with actually one of our former winners, who's now, in the process of growing her own business. So, we're excited to see what comes of that. We also have some plans for potentially another adult idea competition. Again, once we're all safe and can be in a place where, we can be gathered and perhaps share some inspiration juice. Excellent.
Well, Jeff, thanks for joining us tonight. And I know everybody's eager to get started with the panel conversation, and we'll go ahead and get that introduced here in just a minute. But I will go ahead and pop you out, and I'd like to introduce our facilitator for tonight, Darla LeClair.
Have a great show.
Thank you. And welcome, Darla. I just wanted to say Darla is my colleague from Two Rivers Talks, a video interview show that we've been running for about 2 years, maybe a little bit longer than that.
2.5 years now.
2.5 years, where we get online and kind of jabber and meet very interesting people and really celebrate life on the Lakeshore here. The artists, the business owners, the happenings about town. And you were the obvious choice as the owner of the Basilisk Bibbles Art Gallery and shared artist space in downtown Two Rivers as a facilitator for tonight's event. And I just wanted to give you props for all the great things you've done to build the community here downtown and to bring art to the city of Two Rivers and to Manitowoc County. I know that there are many others who are involved with that. In fact, many of them on the panel tonight, and maybe a few of them joining us from out in the audience as well.
That sounds good. And really, thank you for having me moderate tonight's panel. This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and I want to see more growth in the arts along the Lakeshore, and it's happening. It really is happening, from Port Washington up through Sheboygan, Manitowoc, Two Rivers, up to Algoma, and other places in between. And it can be very daunting, especially in today's, what's happening today. First of all, it's scary to have your own business to begin with. We have a lot of strikes against us to begin with, but in the arts, not really typically thought of as being a huge money maker or something that you'd be able to survive on. But it's possible if you're smart and you do it right. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Um, and that being said, being an entrepreneur in a creative discipline, whether it's visual arts, dance, film, if it's digital, fashion, if it's in games, the spoken word, the written word, or something else entirely, it carries with it a unique set of challenges. And I think that everyone on the panel can attest to that. In this panel, we will explore the perspectives of several local creative entrepreneurs who have been navigating these challenges and succeeding. This will be a great chance for artistic entrepreneurs of all types to hear from others who have faced the same struggles. We hope you'll come away with inspiration, ideas for new approaches, and a bigger network to draw upon. And I would like to introduce to you the panel, but first, like Todd said, my name is Darla LeClair, and I am the owner and operator of Basil Ishkabibbles Art Gallery and Artist Share Space in downtown Two Rivers. So if you haven't had a chance to come to Two Rivers in a while, come by and see us. We have a lot of different things happening, and you can stop by and say hey to me. So that being said, let's get on to talking or introducing our panelists.
Well, Darla, if I could, I'm sorry to do this,
Sure.
but we've had a very tightly packed studio here tonight, virtually speaking. And I saw that Roger Russo has just been able to join us. And just wanted to give him a quick plug, quick plug here. Hi, Roger. Welcome.
Good morning. This feels like an episode of Two Rivers Talks right now.
It does.
What time zone are you in?
I don't know, but it's awfully dark outside.
So those of you joining us, Roger Russo is the director for Two Rivers Main Street, one of the other great supporters of entrepreneurship here in Manitowoc County. Really glad you could join us, Roger, and wanted to give you an opportunity to say hi to our audience out there that's watching tonight.
Well, thanks for the invite, Todd. I'm glad I could make it too. And hello, everybody, and thank you for joining the event. I'd like to mention one thing in particular. Like Todd mentioned, Two Rivers Main Street has been involved with Two Rivers Biz Starts since the beginning, and we put on an event during Startup Week last year that we're going to hold off till post-pandemic probably until we hold it again. That was our show of hands crowdfunding, in-person crowdfunding event. But something I did want to mention for any of you who may be looking at opportunities to start a business, Two Rivers Main Street right now is putting the finishing touches on a startup grant program for people looking to open a new business in the downtown Two Rivers area. It'll involve funding as well as educational opportunities for anybody that's interested in opening a brick and mortar art gallery, any type of retail store, anything like that in downtown Two Rivers. The grant amounts are $2,500 each, and we plan to have 4 of those available starting in the first quarter of 2021. So keep your eyes and ears open, and if anybody's interested in something like that, please get a hold of me at the Two Rivers Main Street office.
Thanks very much, Roger, for that. Really appreciate it, and glad you could join us tonight. I think with that, we've concluded our announcements, except to say Two Rivers Biz Starts is also extremely glad to be able to be a backer for tonight, as well as the other events during Startup Wisconsin Week. We'll tell a little bit more about those before we close out the broadcast for the evening. But I want to be able to move forward and be respectful of our panelists' time as well. So over to you, Darla, for introductions, and Roger and I will duck behind the stage here.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Todd. Roger, it was good seeing you.
You
I'd like to introduce Brandon Gothier, owner of Gothier Furniture, specializing in artisan furniture, reclaimed flooring, and architectural and industrial salvage. We also are going to have Nate Haben, who is the owner of Haben Media Works. He is a filmmaker and cinematographer, an artist, business owner. A quote from Nate: "Trying to pull the boat over the mountain." So good luck with that. I know what that's all about. Um, we also tonight have Stephanie Carpenter, who is the assistant director at Hamilton Wood Type and Printing Museum. She is a letterpress printer, a graphic designer, and an educator as well. Her husband, who is also another creative, his name is David Carpenter, and he is originally from New Haven, Indiana. He received his BA in studio art, concentrating on painting and drawing from the University of St. Francis in Fort Wayne, Indiana. David then attended the New York Academy of Art, where he received his MFA, concentrating in painting. After returning to the University of St. Francis, where he taught as a guest lecturer for 3 years, he and his wife, Stephanie, moved to Manitowoc, Wisconsin, where they currently live and both work. While he focuses primarily on works done with oil paint on panel, he also enjoys working with linoleum cuts and wood engraving, which I wasn't aware of. I got to see those, as well as most drawing media. Also tonight, one of our guests is Erin Labonte, who received her Bachelor of Fine Arts from the University of Wisconsin at Stevens Point and her Master of Fine Arts from the Pennsylvania.
We lost Darla. It's anarchy.
Uh-oh, I think we lost Darla. I think she lost her net connection. Anyways, Erin Labonte received her Bachelor of Fine Arts from the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point and her Master of Fine Arts from the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts in Philadelphia. She's participated in artistic residencies in Costa Rica and Argentina and has exhibited nationally and internationally. Erin practices many artistic mediums in her own studio work. She's an advocate for bringing art to public spaces and for community engagement. Erin is dedicated to inspiring and educating young people in their personal explorations. She served as an associate professor of art at Holy Family College in Manitowoc, Wisconsin for 9 years, and is co-founder of Yonder, an art space in Algoma, Wisconsin. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you.
Good to see you. And hopefully, Darla is able to rejoin us in just a moment here. But next, I'd like to introduce to the stream Mr. CJ Kazan.
Sure, do whatever fits. Van, yeah.
Works for me, man.
Van is in van. Here, we'll see that. Hopefully, this fixes. Hey, there we go.
CJ is an improv comedian, actor, artist, and musician. He's on TV and films and over the many stages in Green Bay. To see him perform live, other than the panel here tonight, of course, check out the Squeezebox comedy page on Facebook, right?
Yes, correct. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And then last but not least, I'm excited to introduce Mr. Craig Knitt, an artist, filmmaker, improvisational performer, comedian, and teacher. He is a practicing professional teacher and graphic arts director with Boys and Girls Club of Greater Green Bay. And Craig is the founder and event director for the annual Wildwood Film Festival in Appleton, Wisconsin. Welcome to you all.
Thank you for having me.
Very excited you're here. Now we're actually just missing a moderator, it looks like. So hopefully Darla will be able to find her way back in. She's been having some spotty internet issues, so hopefully that'll be resolved soon and we'll be able to swap out. It will only be somewhat more awkward for me trying to manage screen views while we have the conversation here. So thanks for your good humor in the meantime. So the first question for the panel here tonight is really about how you got started. And as a creative who either sells your wares or has some kind of entrepreneurial bent to what you're doing, what is it that you do? And is it your main business or your side hustle? I guess. And so how did you get started? And is it your main business or side hustle? Who would like to go first with this? Brandon, you look uncomfortable, so I'm going to pick on you first. Yeah.
Sure. So I guess it all started back as a young kid with the passion for learning how things go together and how things work. And then I found that woodworking seemed a lot of fun to me, and was inspired by a couple of local artists in their own right. And I just kind of took it from there throughout the years and kept moving forward. As I got a little bit older, the projects got a little bit bigger, and that kind of started people to take a little notice on the craftsmanship that was kind of coming out of my grandparents' basement to start. And then out of high school, it just kind of the business got started, and from there it was, well, all uphill, I guess. To where we are today, to putting together large quantities of materials for commercial structures and small one-off pieces of furniture for just the regular the homeowner.
Darla, welcome back. We just got started, and Brandon just answered the question about how he got started in his business.
Okay. Did any of my introduction show up, or did you lose me?
We lost you around Aaron, but I picked up the ball from there and rounded it out.
We lost her again.
Oh no, we lost her again. All right. Well, while she sorts that out, what do we go next to? I'm going to go clockwise from what I can see on the screen here and go with Nathan. Tell us a little bit about your start.
Really, like, I started out, originally I was going to be a studio arts major in college. And by just a random chance, a friend of mine was going into broadcast television and sort of informed me of a film program that they have at UW Oshkosh. And so, I switched majors at that time and kind of have been really doing it ever since. Like, once I got out of college, I was doing advertising for Charter Communications, and kind of got burnt out on that pretty quickly, just because it was, once 2009 hit, or 2009, 2010 hit, it was like the only people who had money to advertise were car dealerships and lawyers' offices. And so I looked at my finances at that time, and I had enough money to put together my first camera package. And so, I quit, bought some equipment, and then just been freelancing in film ever since.
All right, and I think we've developed a theme of losing Darla here for tonight. So how about next we talk a little bit to Craig Knitt.
Awesome. I think as a creator, we kind of fall into the category where we always know that we're going to do something artistic or creative. And growing up in a small rural community in Wisconsin, we don't really have a lot of opportunities for artists, but you know that's something that you really want to pursue as you're going on. So I had an option of going to school for education. So I became an art teacher for quite a few years in my hometown of Marion, Wisconsin, and I got a chance to teach the kids that were me ultimately, which I think is a wonderful, passionate job that I had for many, many years. And most recently, I've been working with the Boys and Girls Club up in Green Bay, where we had the Youth Arts Initiative funded through the Wallace Foundation to see how the arts affect kids in an after-school setting. And it's really cool just how powerful that really seems to be. So that's something that I think for creatives, it's just a part of your soul. It's just a part of who you are. It's not like you necessarily have a choice. There are days when I wish that I could be content with just a normal 9-to-5 job, but I don't know if I could be true to myself if that were the case. So that is a little bit about what got me started in the arts.
Excellent, excellent. Why don't we switch to David next?
Yeah, so I guess the way I kind of got started in the arts is that's the thing that came the most natural to me when I was in school. It's just I was interested in lots of subjects, but art was the only thing that was really like it just kind of I naturally liked to do. And I found that while I enjoyed other subjects, I was still doodling on all the papers that I would turn in for those subjects. And so I just enjoyed art the most. And so I just kind of kept going in that route. And I always knew I enjoyed teaching. So my intention was always to go into the teaching route of art. So I still do that, but I enjoy making things. That's when I'm the most happy, is when I'm actually making something. And so I still try to do my own projects outside of teaching, and luckily that's kind of grown into I can now make about as much money teaching as I do with outside projects, just kind of accumulating projects here and there. And so it's been kind of a nice balance because I can still teach and I can still make things, which has been kind of a blessing, which is great.
Fantastic. And Stephanie, how about you next?
Yeah, so as soon as I figured out that graphic design was an option, that I didn't just have to draw things, and I learned that graphic design was like problem solving and organizing information, I was set. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I got all my degrees in. And then about 9 years ago, found out I could work at the Hamilton Wood Type and Printing Museum. And I was like, yes, because that's the history of graphic design. So it tied so nicely into what I do. So I would say that my full-time gig is definitely at Hamilton as the program officer, and then my side gig or my side hustle is graphic design as freelance and other letterpress projects. So it's everything that I do, both as a side hustle and my main job.
Fantastic. And I don't think we've heard from Erin yet. Mm-hmm. So Erin, why don't you go next?
Okay. I think I always realized I wanted to be an artist ever since I wasn't going to get any taller and be the basketball star that I had originally wanted to be. So I got my master's degree and kind of planned on having teaching as my, I guess, my source of income and kind of my backup. I think it's hard to be an artist and make money directly from your art. And I've been fortunate enough. I've been working with David Carpenter, who's also on this panel, and creating a lot of murals for the community. And that's kind of taking off. And then I have a creative gallery space that hopefully after COVID, we're going to turn into more of a studio space and start doing some classes as well. So I feel really invested in education and making sure that art is accessible to the community, I guess is where I really put my energy. But always making my own studio art too. It's very important to me. I don't really know how to explain what it is I make, but I am always figuring out some kind of creative project for myself. And I think it's really nice that I have that outlet and that I don't have to depend on selling that work. It probably won't be successful.
Excellent. And then finally, CJ, why don't you tell us a little bit about your origin story?
Sure. Pretty much my entire origin story is very intimately connected with Craig. So Craig can back me up on hopefully all of this, but basically it all started yet again with very similar to a lot of you, right? When I went to college, and I went to college for art, which I ended up getting my degree in. But it was that first day of orientation when at night we had a performing group come in and the entertainment was improv. And I was like, oh, I only saw this on TV. And it was amazing that it was real. It was just like Whose Line Is It Anyway? And we were super excited. So then I auditioned, got in, was with that troupe for a long time, met Craig. Craig was like my first improv teacher and actually was like the teacher who cared, about the new people. And it was just an amazing connection that has never done anything but grow, I feel, which is fantastic, because eventually after performing for years with that group, we wanted to break off and do something ourselves that was performing in a loving and caring and growth oriented environment, which I think the two of us really nailed after a while, because we we had so many. We had the Squeezebox Comedy Show, which was a really fun experimental full music improv show, like full band and everything, with Kevin McLeod and Tucker Diedrich, and every once in a while a couple of other performers who still work with us, like Tony Mayer and Sean Yan. And then it eventually grew into Impromptu, which is the one that we've performed at Basilishka Bowls and all over Wisconsin, just the two of us, Craig and I. And really, it was since 2017. It was 2015 when we kind of started doing all that on our own. But in 2017, early 2017, we did a show for, I think it was the Wrightstown Better Business Bureau Association. And it was a room that we played, and it was the oddest show. And because it went so odd, and they still loved it, it was a crowd that just didn't react. And because they loved it so much, we were inspired to really start to study what we could do to make a better show, not just from our craft, but also how we can work with the audience and how we can better get an energetic response from them without having to have any comedy right off the bat. You know what I mean? Just being more personable and making those personal connections. And that's where we are right now. We have Squeezebox, we have Impromptu, and we have Paradox. And I now also am one of the founding members of the Interchange Theater Co-op in Milwaukee, which is growing. So there's a lot going on. But
that's amazing. Well, I know you're definitely a busy guy, and I think I'd just like to round out the group maybe by having Darla talk a little bit about the art gallery. She's back.
You know what, Todd? I had to go sacrifice the virgin, and then it let me back on, so everything's good now.
So it's just another Wednesday night.
It's just, what else do you do on a Wednesday night? At least in my world.
So, Darla, so the question was about, how you got started, like the idea for the art gallery. Do you want to maybe cover that quickly? And then I'll turn over the reins to you. Hopefully your internet connection stays stable here. So,
well, I think it was kind of like between you, Jeff Soxie, who we just saw at the very beginning of this broadcast, and just random various people that I know throughout the city. It was just, blithely said, why don't you start an art gallery? It'd be great. I was like, okay. So I did. And I didn't have any clue as to what I was doing. I didn't have a business plan. I had no idea how QuickBooks works. I didn't know what an LLC was, but I had to learn very fast. And we've been around. It was 2 years last June that we've been in existence, and I know what I'm doing now, but it was school of hard knocks. So what I can say to people who want to be a creative and in business at the same time is do your homework and get to know reality and the real world before you just blindly stumble into what it is that you want to do, because it'll save you so much heartache, but it's all doable.
It's great advice, Darla. With that, I am going to fade into the background here, and unless you happen to disappear again, and we'll leave the rest of the conversation facilitation to you. Take it away.
Where are we at? I don't even know where we're at. I couldn't even see you guys.
We just went around with everybody and asked how they got started with their business.
Gotcha.
And so
okay.
I'll just kind of hand it off to you from there.
Gotcha.
How's that? Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you, Todd.
You bet.
Here's an appropriate question for everyone that kind of builds on what I just said about my little travels in starting a business. How important is it for you to know business basics? And Brandon, why don't we start with you?
How important is it to know business basics? I think you kind of said it before when you mentioned looking into starting up, so you know what to expect, and you know how to react to the things that are up and coming. But on the contrary, it is nice to dive in and find out what you should and shouldn't do right away, because that is part of the core of the lessons learned that can make you a better business person in the future as your years go on, and how you escalate through the years. But the knowledge and having for business is not as important as the knowledge you must have for the product that you're providing. And I think if you put forth the energy to make your product stand out, that is gonna take you to where you need to be, and you'll learn along the way. If you start off small, And starting off small is probably the most important way to start off, and learn and take note of everything, and kind of baby steps. Take little larger steps, and then work your way into how do you figure out how to make a little bit more money off the projects that you're doing. Maybe you have to change your product a little bit to make a little bit more money with a little less overhead. There's a lot of variables there, and you don't learn those variables until you start. And there's nobody out there that's really going to be able to tell you everything you need to know to be able to run a seamless startup and not have any troubles without a couple of bumps in the road along the way.
Right.
And that's the fun part.
It can be fun, and it can be it can kind of take your breath away sometimes, but it is fun. As your business grows, you grow.
Yes.
And you actually learn from each other. It's an organic thing. So, David, same question, my friend.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I don't know if I ever really intended on being my own business. It just kind of started happening, and I don't even know if I consider myself my own business as much as I do kind of freelance work. And I think the thing that has kind of struck me is that as I get more and more work, kind of work begets work. And so as the years have gone by, we've been getting more and more projects. And I can't stress how much keeping yourself organized is important. When I was only getting like 1 or 2 jobs here and there, I could kind of just handle it by just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. But anymore, I really need to try to make sure that I'm writing things down and keeping an organized list of what's happening, because the more things happen, the more things can get confusing. And so organization just becomes so important. And I would also stress building good relationships with others, because I don't think the things I do right now would be possible without someone like Aaron, who is significantly better at some of those organizational details than I am. And even just like when I'm working with Steph, like she's my wife, which is great, but she does graphic design, and so I can kind of leech onto her when she needs illustration work. And those relationships are really good for kind of for starting out. The more more relationships you have, the easier it is to kind of find more work. And so I think that I mean, if there's anything I can stress more than anything, it's organization. I was not super organized starting, and it's definitely something that takes practice, and it's I'm getting better at it.
And Stephanie keeps you on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, kind of. I honestly, I think Aaron keeps both of us on the straight and narrow more than anything. But
thank goodness for Aaron.
Yeah.
You keep these two kids in line now, Aaron. CJ, same question. What about you with business basics? Because basically you are your own boss.
Yeah, I definitely stumbled into it, which is something that both David and Brandon touched on is not a good thing. But that's what ended up happening, because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't really know how to research it, nor have anyone who I could talk to that was willing to share that information. So I kind of stumbled ahead, and really honestly think the only thing that kept pushing everything forward towards progress and success was exactly what David just brought up, and that's the interpersonal relationships and being approachable and kind and as absolutely welcoming to everyone that you meet, because you don't know who they are, you don't know who they're going to be, you don't know what that connection might become. And almost all of them, to some degree, have become something. If not a fan, then someone who's hired us, someone who's given our made that connection with someone who has hired us. It's really the interpersonal stuff was the big one that laid the groundwork, and all the other stuff came later. As time went on, I was like, oh, I should be doing that. Yet again, I just want to, whatever David said, copy paste right here. And the same thing with brand. Everyone's got it. You all got it. That's really what I'd say, is that it was the personal stuff and just making sure that, like David said, write things down. It shocks me today when I remember how little I was paying attention to a lot of that stuff. And then quickly, probably the best. Oh, nice. I probably saw. My best perspective on how to run everything was, how do I want to be a customer of me? How would I want to be who I'd work with? And because I tend to think that I'm not someone who's going to be unfair to anyone who I was to hire, but at the same time, I'd want to make sure that I was getting my money's worth. So viewing it from that perspective made things pretty simple. Not easy, just simple. So
Okay, great. Thank you. And I know that it was a tough road for you because you're such an introvert, and it's very difficult to get you to break out of your shell and to, no, I'm kidding. But thank you, CJ.
Are you able to hear me laughing too, Darla?
Yes, I can hear you, Craig.
That's
So
wonderful.
are you laughing at me or with me?
I'm definitely laughing with you, Darla.
Okay,
Any chance
yay.
I get.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask you the same question then. How important
Outstanding.
is it to know?
Right now, with any student that I run into who is going on to school to be an artist, the first thing I say, the first advice out of my mouth is take some business classes as well. Because right now we're living in a world where you really kind of have to know how to promote yourself to a certain degree. And I know that as an artist myself, and if we're going to be honest, I think that there's a lot of, I don't want to say arrogance, but maybe a little bit more confidence than we should have at times, because our artwork is going to speak for us. We're we're the next Van Gogh. We're so good that somebody's going to recognize us. We don't need to worry about branding ourselves at all because our artwork will speak for itself. And then we're going to start seeing some of our colleagues getting recognition who aren't nearly as talented as we are. What the heck is going on? This isn't right. And I think it has a lot to do with, and then you get bitter. There's a bitterness that sets in. And I think it's because if you can't promote yourself and you don't put a little bit of time into that, the arts are oftentimes all about the hustle, where you're trying to find your next gig and your next job and all that stuff. And as a teacher, and I think David hit on it really well, being a teacher is the one thing that is kind of solid. So you don't have to worry about where the next paycheck is coming from. You have a little bit more freedom to create. But anyone who's just a freelance artist, you're always worrying about that hustle. And it gets to be pretty hard. But if you can learn to promote yourself and build relationships with clientele and continue to build things. I see that somebody just asked what business classes would you recommend. I know that there were workshops out there for promoting yourself as an artist. There's a guy from the state of Wisconsin that wrote a book about that too. That I went to one of his workshops. Erin Labonte might know who that is. She's pretty smart. But even just a basic business course, I think, will set you down the right trail. So those are some of the things that I would definitely say. It's important to really look into the business side of the arts, especially if you want to seriously pursue it and make it profitable.
Right, absolutely. And Stephanie, when you're not busy trying to keep your husband in line, what about you with your business basics?
Yeah, I would say are you thinking of Frank Juarez with Art Dose, Craig?
Yes, that's the guy.
Yeah, we've taken a class with him, and he is really good. He helps you think about things from a new perspective, which is important.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And a shout out to Frank. He's very helpful for the arts community, and he remembers everyone. When he sees you and he knows you, that's important. That's part of that building that community that Craig was talking about. For business basics, I would say that it's always, I'm always finding that the more I learn that I need to learn. So it almost like it begets itself. Like I have to start it, and then I just realize how much I don't know.
No, I totally get that, and it all builds on itself. And if you don't panic, it all works out fine in the end. It's not the end of the world. You learn, you live, you learn, you go on, and you just get better.
Yeah, and there's good places online, like Skillshare is an affordable, like I went to college, I like college, but there's lots of opportunities like BizStarts or the local library or Skillshare. So the nice thing is you don't always have to spend 4 years doing it. You can still find things online.
Absolutely. And Erin, who is evidently the mother hen for the carpenters tonight.
Yes, thank goodness for
Um,
Erin.
So wonderful.
Same question for you.
Such creative people to work with. I think, I kind of second what Craig said about when I work with students, I always push them to take a business course and to consider how they're presenting themselves online and professionally. The murals that we do, it's really nice because for us, one project will kind of lead to another project because our work is in such a public sphere. But all of the things that I do, I started doing just because they were fun. I started doing murals very cheap, where just buy the paint and we'll paint it with my students or something like that, which gained energy. And here at Yonder at our art space, last year we put on a really fantastic performance, and we always really all of our openings we kind of invest in, and we'd want to have a party and then just like even out. And I think that I learned last year with our space that we need to organize more, and a class that I took with Frank Juarez was really helpful in actually thinking about that. Are you learning? Anyways, I'm reading the comments and I probably shouldn't be as I'm talking, but I started learning about contracts, pricing, and insurance, and all of these side things as I got more invested in our project. And I think one thing that's also been really important in thinking with business is that as I keep learning, our product keeps getting better and better. So I can start asking for more money, and I can start being kind of more organized and actually have like nice letterhead when I send out a contract or something like that, and present myself more professionally. So I really think that one thing kind of leads to another, and that no matter how far along you are in it, it's probably good to stop and reflect and consider how you can improve.
Right. And there's always room for that. Now, here's another question I would like to pose to all of our panelists. How do you connect with the market, and how do you find clients? So why don't we start off with, well, Erin, since you were so patient to finally get to answer the last question, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with this one?
Yeah.
How do you connect with the market, and how do you find clients?
I attend workshops when possible. I see Craig every year at Wisconsin Arts workshop where different mural artists or public artists are speaking about projects they do, and that's always a really good thing to do to connect with other people that are working. I always look at call for artists, whether I'm going to apply for them or not, to kind of get a sense of their pricing and the scope of the projects to see if I'm kind of on point. I also, yesterday I was at a finance committee meeting in Manitowoc, in public input, sharing that the city should be investing money for more public arts projects. So I try to engage in different committees and organizations and really put myself out there to connect with the larger community. And Manitowoc has been really great because the city has been a great supporter of the arts. Two Rivers as well has been a supporter of the arts. So I think that that's really valuable. And like I said before, our work is big and it's in public spaces. So that's a really helpful thing.
Well, for you, it's like the clients find you.
Yeah, and one project leads to another. Like we did a project at a pub this summer, and then the pub posted the picture on Facebook, and then somebody said, "How do I get a mural?" And I just messaged them, and then that was our next mural. So
okay, all right, thank you very much. Nate, what about you? Oh, you got to unmute. There you go.
Of course, we got to unmute. In terms of like drawing up new clientele, and how do we drum up work and things of that sort. I'm honestly, like in our industry, it's so much about reputation that it's really about it's the weirdest thing that about filmmaking is that like it's rarely the best person for the job that's ever hired. It's who do you want to work with the most, and I think that's just it's just sort of a nature of the industry. And you're sort of like, if you're going to be stuck in a remote location, just grinding it out for like 12 hours a day, consistently working with people who, like, do you want any abrasive personalities? And I'm like, and are you willing to give up, quality for, for just working with somebody that you love working with? And honestly, yeah, there's been times too, like if I've had to refer people to for film crews and things like that, even I've been like, yeah, no, this person's great, but they're a pain to work with. So, the biggest thing is what I've really found, like, in the work that I've been able to do, especially even outside of the state, is like the Midwestern work ethic. Of you work really hard, you kind of just stay humble about it, you're self-depreciating and or self-deprecating, and you just just carry yourself well and everything like that, and that tends to be like it. That tends to speak more than anything else, and getting referrals off of that has
Fantastic.
been the best path to
And
success.
Brandon, what about you? How do you find your clients?
Well, I guess to find my clients, I've kind of separated myself from the textbook woodworker, fabricator, in the sense of trying to separate with a distance between that by offering something that not a lot of other people can. So in my case, it's more of the storied materials, so to say, the reclaimed, the historic items, the salvageable items that repurposing into artwork, furniture, and interior components. And that's something with the sheer size and the quantities, not a lot of other people are able to do. So I was able to, like I said, separate myself with just the run-of-the-mill type of fabricator compared to what I'm doing with the large industrial items with the quantities, and then trying to be as creative as possible with these materials, so that when somebody sees this material or finished product, it really is a wow factor. And they go, now, how did that thing even get lifted in here? How does that get moved? Or how did that get fabricated? So to add those aspects to the product that you're producing and you're offering to your customers, it's a matter of difference from the rest of the people that who may be doing something kind of like you. It's a separation in yourself. And I think a lot of the people that are interested in a product that may be looking for what each artist is doing is going to see. They're going to take note of that. And then it's going to come down to, who am I working with? Who am I hiring to do this project for me? To do this commission. So you have to be on a personable level, able to sell yourself as a person who can be commissioned, and then be able to do the projects that you're being commissioned for in a way that maybe these other people would have a hard time finding somebody else to do. And so my main thing is separation from the rest of the pack. It's probably the number one way to sell and promote my product.
Okay. Well, I've seen your work, and it is you are not part of the pack, and that's a very good thing. It's very unique. It is, you have a lot of wow factor, and you have a lot of your soul in your work, and it
Yes,
shows. And
yeah,
it's just
that will
gorgeous.
show. That if you put your passion into your work, if you kind of take away if you can try as hard as you can, sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes you have to just tell yourself, hey, you got it pretty good. You're doing what you want to do right now. This isn't work. This is your passion, and you're following it, and be happy with that. And always keep that your mind on that path, so that it keeps work fun, and you keep rejuvenating the mind and creating new things and new ideas, and you don't get stuck in the same old pattern. Change is big, and passion reflects on that change.
Absolutely. And David, what about you?
Um, I mean, well, one of the things that I think, because I work very closely with Erin on a lot of like my kind of my freelance projects, I think one of the things that she may have not said is that you like, at least I see when working with her, is you have to be somewhat bold in pursuing kind of options. One thing that I know Erin has done is go up to people's buildings and say, "This would have this. I think this would look great for, with a mural on it. What do you think about?" You know, what I mean, she pursues them in a very bold manner, and I think that's one of the things that got us really started. Because I know there was lots of spaces that we've done that she told them they should have a mural, and they agreed with her. And I think that that's one thing you have to be able to do is be pretty. You have to be bold. You have to be willing to kind of put yourself out there and pursue things, even if you don't know if it's an option, because you don't know if it's an option unless you try. And I think that that's one thing people are scared to do. I know personally, I don't feel comfortable with kind of confrontational situations, and so I shy away from that stuff. But it's something you have to be kind of willing to do if you want to have those opportunities arise. And so I think that's one thing that was probably very important for when we got started. Now, like she said, we kind of paint our own billboards for ourselves because they're so big that people see them and then want to know who did it. And so that's been very helpful. And social media has been extremely helpful because honestly, Facebook, people sharing it has really gotten us a lot of work. And so getting yourself in a place where people want to share your work has been super helpful. So I'd say the last couple of years, it's been a lot more work that way. But the first couple of years, it was really Erin walking up to a building saying, "This needs a mural," and then the person being like, "Okay," and then we'd start, and then we'd work something out. So I would really say be bold. Just pursue it, even if you don't know if it's an option, because that's how you start.
Right. All right. Thank you. CJ, what about
Yes.
you, friend?
So how would I market myself? Basically, the number one thing that I needed to do is make sure that the craft in which I was selling, which was intimately tied to myself and to Craig, was one that we had confidence in. Once we had confidence in that, we could market basically ourselves as showmen, kind of marketing the charisma of that. And it all, yet again, comes from the personal relationships that you make, actually meeting people, people passing on your name. That was really the one way that definitely worked, because all of the other marketing, unless a place helped us, like a venue actually would do their own marketing, none of our own marketing ever really had much of an effect, just because I think because of the fact that it is a live improv show, and really, like, if Whose Line Is It Anyway didn't have a TV show, it would be the same as every other one. It would be the same until you saw it. And that was kind of the way that we marketed it, was, hey, give us a try. This person who you know says they're pretty good. So they come to see our shows and then they end up having us again. Darla, good example. And it, like, in terms of marketing that in that way, it was kind of simple. You just also had to be careful because you also needed to have a bit of yourself that was for you and not for the rest of the world to see. And obviously, it's not the worst thing for people knowing those things. But love you guys being bold. Oh, thanks, Kurt. We did a show for Kurt. Kurt's amazing. Met him at a show. Met him right away. He was in the front row, and we started jabbing back and forth with him immediately. And I guess the second part of that question was, what was it? How do we connect with our clients? That was another thing. Actually calling them and talking to them, making sure that all of their questions are answered. And if you don't have an answer for it, you immediately find one. And then another thing that I wanted to kind of bring up is that when it came to actually finding work, aside from the personal aspect of it, if we got a connection for a show, there was a very, very good chance we would get that show. It was a very good chance. The opposite of being an actor, where you get maybe 1 in 10 auditions, maybe if you're lucky. And so that was something that we were definitely focusing on. Is all we need is to make that initial connection, grab it, be who we are, which is, kind and welcoming and helpful, and there you go. You got a show. And then just do that, repeat dozens of times. And there you go.
Fantastic. Well, I know we had you a couple times over at the gallery, and people, I enjoy it watching you guys. You you really kind of just floor me. You're so quick, quick on your feet, and having to put up with these rowdy audiences, and having to put up with me trying to needle you. Um, and we were going to have you guys back, and then COVID hit, and of course, with a
Mhm.
small space,
Yep.
couldn't have the audience in like we would. So one of the first things I plan on doing in the future, once we kind of maybe hopefully get back to a somewhat normal type of existence, is to
Mm.
have you guys back. You will be my celebration.
It's
So
working.
Love it.
just
What I just described is
just
work.
be prepared. Um,
Thank you, Darla.
what?
Thank you. Thank you so
Oh
much.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Oh,
it.
you're welcome, my sweetheart. All right. All right. Okay, Stephanie, what about you?
Yeah, so definitely social media has been a big thing that has gotten me work. And the letterpress community there's a very large community. And so the nice thing there is once you get connected with someone, it connects and connects and connects and connects. And so I would say same with along the lakeshore, like being a part of something bigger is a really nice way to make those connections. So I'm part of the Lakeshore Artists Guild, and we all do something different, but that connection allows you to be able to find work that someone else doesn't need. Like I'm a graphic designer, so they're going to come to me for graphic design. So that's really nice.
Fantastic. And Mr. Kinnett, what about you?
Awesome. Well, you know what? I was just listening to what everybody was saying, and everybody was really nailing it. Everybody's absolutely nailing the answer. And I think even going back to what Nate was saying as far as building relationships, I just think that that is step number one. And you have to also think about, a lot of the artists that I know of sometimes can be very introverted. And that makes it very difficult to really promote yourself and build these relationships. But find ways that can work for you. If you're a shy person, there are places that you can meet people that are not going to be that stressful for you to meet them. And I would just strongly encourage you to do that, because the more people that you meet and the more relationships you build, the stronger and the wider your client base might be. And that wraps that up just like that. Thank you, Darla.
Thank you, Craig. All right. Now here's a really good question for everybody, because I know that I have to deal with this as well. How do you stay motivated and inspired? So, Stephanie, let's start with you.
So I stay motivated and inspired again by that letterpress community. There's lots of other people doing amazing things. But one thing I would say is I really love to read and research. So if you're looking at Pinterest, you're seeing all the same things that everyone else is seeing. So you really need to read and expand what you're looking at. And don't always just look at what you do. So I don't just read books about letterpress. I read other things that will start to get that ball rolling. And so I would say a wide breadth of books. So that's normally where I go for inspiration.
Okay, great. And Erin, what about you? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay.
There you go.
I stay motivated and inspired by setting up new problems to solve. Different ways to engage in kind of the same process, I guess. And I do that in my own studio work, and then I do that with David with the public arts. We did a paint by number mural one year, and then this year we did a mural where we had different artists submit work that we incorporated into our overall design. So I think just always trying to find a new way to do the same thing, and to kind of go bigger and to be bolder each time and continue improving.
Okay, fantastic. And Nate, what about you?
I don't know. I'm really, really lucky. Like I found sort of a career where, like, if I'm doing like 6 days in a row of like 12-hour days and it's hot and it's sweaty and gross and stuff like that too, I'll wake up on day 7 and be like, why aren't we shooting anything today? I don't know. I sort of like love the combination of what I do, so it's pretty natural to sort of stay motivated at it. But I I guess the one thing I don't do is I don't look at other people's work very much. And I think too, just because there's such like a, everybody now has like a 4K camera that they can carry around with them in their pocket. And so like there's just like this flood of really, really great content out there. And I think if you try to compete with a tidal wave, you're gonna lose. And so like the best thing that you can do is I think just have like, and what I try to do anyway is just have pretty strict goals for myself, and I try to reevaluate those goals every once in a while. Like my biggest goal at the moment is just sort of like when it comes to a film project is I want to shoot like a perfect film, and like whether it's like and it's sort of that challenge of trying to bowl like a 300 game or bat 1,000 or something like that. It's really, really, really difficult to do. But it's just sort of like it's going to be a lot of focus and a lot of discipline in order to do it. But that's kind of my goal, and it gives me a lot of motivation just to kind of keep moving forward and trying to hone craft and all of that. So.
Great. Thank you, Nate. And Brandon, you're up.
All right. Let's see, inspiration and motivation. I'm not sure if I'm inspired to be motivated or motivated to be inspired. Let's kind of sort that out. But I guess motivation would be, we all have the bottom line as to why we're in business. We have to pay our bills. We have to move forward in this business. So if that isn't enough to motivate you to be successful, I don't know what is. Inspiration is the key to getting you there, I guess. So the inspiration in what you see before you create, and then the time frame between that inspiration to the time to where you have your finished product, no matter what it might be, getting from the beginning, from the grid line of that race start to the final checkered flag is the inspiration and the drive. The pleasure you get from seeing a finished product is really a major inspiration. The kicker is obviously getting paid for it. Moving forward.
Absolutely. All right, David.
Yeah, so I am lucky in that I really enjoy just doodling, and so even when I'm not really doing a whole, like right now it's winter, we don't do a whole lot of murals, I still draw all the time, and I like to set different, I don't want to say I don't actually like write down a list of things like problems I'd like to solve. I kind of just skitter around and do different kinds of work. I like to work in lots of different types of styles if I can, because it keeps me excited about what I'm doing. And so like recently I got an iPad and I draw on that a lot, and that it's a new problem to solve. It's a new medium. It's something else I haven't like really worked with before, and that keeps me interested. And I think the other thing that does is it forces me to work in styles I probably wouldn't have before, and that helps me diversify my options for clients once they come to me, because I can understand different ways of working, and I think that opens up different avenues for different business opportunities. If people come to me and want a very specific kind of style, I can get there easier if I've been playing around with it. And so I really enjoy doodling, and so I don't really have a problem keeping myself like motivated to some extent. I think the other thing that I have found is I also have to be I have to be a little more forgiving with myself when I know I can't get to certain things that I want to do. I really enjoy doing academic painting. It's probably like, if there was one thing I would say is a passion of mine, it's to paint very academically. That opportunity doesn't come up nearly as much in my business work as I would like to. And so I teach. I don't really get to paint a whole lot when I'm teaching. And when we do murals, it's a much different style than I would normally paint in. And so I always have to kind of at least be somewhat willing to forgive myself for not being able to get to that kind of work until I have the time to do it. I think that's one thing that we can get really down if we feel like we're not being productive enough. And I think you have to be somewhat forgiving with yourself to know that you have to be able to take breaks, and you have to be able to know that I will get back to it. Though you also have to be able to make sure you do get back to it at some point. It's very easy to not get back to it as well. But I mean, honestly, I just draw a lot, and that's how I keep myself motivated. I think I can honestly say I draw every day, and it's sometimes it's really bad, but I draw every day. That's really what I do.
If you don't have a chance to draw, do you feel like you're going through withdrawal? You know, it's like you have this nagging need to doodle, and you just can't because of circumstances. I mean, do you get that visceral feeling?
No, I mean, I hear people say that a lot. My wife, or Stephanie, I joke with her all the time, is I'm probably the least romantic artist there ever is, because if I don't draw that day, I don't really feel like any kind of agonizing like inner need to express myself. I just don't draw that day. But it is one of those things that I tell my students this: if you can draw, you really should never be bored as long as you have a pencil near you. Because I mean, once you're bored, you just kind of start doodling stuff, and so I find it as a really great release, and it's a really great way for me to get lost in the moment. I get lost when I'm doodling, and that's what I love about it. But I also don't, like, if I haven't drawn for 5 days, I feel the same if I've drawn for 5 days in a row. I don't find much difference. Okay. That's a very unromantic answer. I know it very much takes the mystique out of my life, but.
You are not a mystery to me anymore. I'm sorry, David. You are no longer a mystery.
Yeah.
Okay, CJ, did you answer this question? I can't remember.
I don't think so. Is this what inspires me? Sounds good. I can answer that now if you be so. Okay, perfect. All right. So 3 things. Pretty simple. 3 things inspire me when we're just talking about performing improv. Number 1 is the dopamine high you get from performing good improv in front of an audience. That high is just because when you're doing it, you're not in a room in front of people. The audience is like a heartbeat, and you can hear them, and it just happens. And that is just the best feeling, because not all shows go that way. And with Craig, I can guarantee you all shows go that way. So it's pretty awesome doing that. Number 2 is knowing that we are literally producing happiness. That inspires me. We're just making people's days, hopefully, right? And sometimes people will come up to you afterwards and tell you what that show meant to them. And it's something that you had no idea of. It was not on your schedule. It was not something that you planned for. And they came with all this stuff like, this is my first time out, since this is a real one. This is the first time that I've been out for anything since my husband passed away in 6 months ago. And it was like, and she said, and I had the best time that I've had in years. And it was like, oh my, did we mean a lot to her tonight? And I did not. And we did our best. That I feel like knowing that ahead of time, we probably wouldn't have done anything any differently. And it was just so good to know that kind of happiness can be brought out, that visceral feeling. And then the third one, and this one's really just kind of something that I've gotten to appreciate ever since I've become also a teacher. And Craig and I have been doing workshops and things like that. What inspires me is I love seeing new performers or artists try something new or something that they're uncomfortable with in the first place, and they're learning it, fail at it, and learn from that. That's the best. That is the most amazing feeling. And that, I'm certain, translates to all the disciplines here today, because when you see that happen, you can tangibly see their progress, especially after that, especially those failures, because that's all it is. That's your foundation. That's how you keep building yourself up, is trying new stuff, inevitably failing at it, getting better. All those mistakes go somewhere, and it's so awesome to see that. And in return, I may be the teacher, but when they learn, it inspires me to do better.
Right.
So.
And CJ, you forgot the most important 4th aspect of all this. Yes, you give us a reason to drink. So thank you very much.
That is true.
Hey. All right. Well, thank you. Now we're going to turn over to your cohort in crime, Mr. Craig, if you could answer that question as well.
Okay, what keeps me motivated and inspired? I think, and if I pull right down to my guts, I have this childish sense of wonder in the world. And I really want to learn things. I'm this big, dumb kid that just wants to keep sucking in as much as I can. And I absorb stories like TV and movies and books and comic books. I just suck it in and just keep filling my head. and it's always, there's always surprises there. So story is something that really excites me to no end. One of the things that I did this year when the pandemic started is we had to teach through videos. So I started a lesson where I'm working with my kids, and I wanted them to tell their stories that they're living through right now, the pandemic stories, so that they wouldn't feel alone. And we talk a lot about social emotional learning, where you're being really conscious of your own, existence and what it is to be who you are. So I'm working with my kids and I'm doing all these videos, and I'm fingers are crossed that they're getting all this. They're creating comic pages that can be utilized as this finished book when we get back together. And ultimately, they watched the videos, but they didn't really do a lot of work. But the person that gained the most through that experience was this guy right here. Because while I'm trying to keep my children's mental health at certain checkpoints, this was something that helped me quite a bit. So that I thought was wonderful. And then also, I think we need to realize that it is okay to sometimes hit a wall. As far as being inspired and motivated all the time, I know that when the pandemic first hit, I was rocking and rolling and I was being super creative, as were a lot of people. And I'm hoping that Brandon will hit upon this a little bit when we talk about, hardware stores and thrift shops and stores where people are building things with this time. They were thriving. They were doing really good. And I would bet you that even art facilities or supply stores were doing really well because people were doing things. And I was doing that for months, and all of a sudden, bam, this pandemic isn't ending. So I hit a bit of a wall, and I was down for maybe a week. And we have to understand that that's okay. It's okay to be able to hit a wall as long as we can kind of find our way through it and still maintain that childish wonderment and sense of wonder with the world. Because there's beautiful things out there every single day, and you just have to find it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Craig. Stephanie, did you answer this question? I can't remember. You did. Okay.
Yep.
Aaron, what about you?
I did as well. Yep.
You did as well. Okay. Well, I'm sorry about that. I have so much talent that I'm listening to and looking at, and I'm just getting everybody. I'm getting you all jumbled together like a bunch of scrambled eggs. So I apologize for that. But I do have a really interesting question for all of you. And that is, why be a creative in Wisconsin? And why are you in the city that you're in? So why don't we start off with Nate?
Okay. I guess to start, I'm in the city I'm in right now is because it is, I grew up there since 1995, and in Two Rivers. And so I don't see anywhere else at home. I love like the peace and the quiet, and it's the least filmmaking community of like any of the networks of people that I have. And so it's nice just to have like a hard division and sort of be like, at the end of the day, when I'm done with projects or done with work, you can just kind of go out and hang out with your neighbors, and there's no film related anything going on, which is actually really wonderful. What I enjoy about filmmaking in Wisconsin, honestly, like I love that it's still such a novelty that no one is jaded to the process yet. Like the community support for, if you tell like a little small restaurant like, hey, can we film here, is usually like, yes, do you need us to make you lunches and stuff like that. It's really wild. And just like seeing, if I have to go out of state, like the amount of money that's dumped into locations or releases or rights and permits and all of this stuff to be able to film anywhere remotely public, is crazy. But in Wisconsin, like I've never had a cop stop me and tell me I have to stop filming. It's always been, hey, do you need a cop in your film? And that's how it's always been. It's the weirdest. And like, so, you know, everybody comes together, and I just think that there's like, filmmaking anyway is this one thing where it's an army of people like with a singular purpose. And so it's a community of people working hand in hand to make something happen. And so like, it's neat that the greater community in Wisconsin sort of joins in on that and sort of says, like, I see what you guys are trying to do and help you out a little bit. And that's wonderful. And I will always try to bring as many projects as I can. If I have any influence, whatever at all, I try to bring something here. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Brandon, what about you? Why be a creative in Wisconsin?
Why be a creative in Wisconsin? Or do you have another part to that question, or why you're here in Two Rivers doing
Yeah.
this? Not anywhere else?
Why Two Rivers?
Why Two Rivers? Well, Two Rivers is the place where I was born. Two Rivers is the place where my grandparents had a business. My great grandparents had a business. I've traveled a lot around the world. I've seen a lot of places, and this is a pretty darn nice city, is the bottom line. And I feel like staying here and keeping my business here is my part of civic duty to this small town that also provides back for me. So that's why I'm in Two Rivers doing this and not anywhere else. And second off, for my business, there are a lot of resources here that go unearthed by a lot of people. And when I say that, we have metal fabricators, we have foundries, there are tech companies, filmmakers, painters. You have everything you need in this small little community. And I don't need to sit in traffic waiting 2 hours to go travel 30 minutes down the road to get something done that's going to take me a half hour to go pick up parts somewhere. You're always dealing with a smaller business, and those smaller knit businesses are some of the best ones to do work with, because it's the small guy that works the hardest for his money, I think, and builds himself up from there. So to patronize those types of businesses, you're easily off doing that in a small town. Why Wisconsin? I always think of Wisconsin as, if you're going to do work nationally to start with, you're kind of halfway to everywhere. You know, if you were stuck in California and you needed to do some sort of work or business or parts or order parts from out east, you'd have to ship it halfway across the country. In Wisconsin, you're halfway there, and that goes for living on the East Coast and having to work with somebody on the West Coast, or you know, north to south. I think a centrally located business position in the United States is the best. And to top it off, my industry consists of the woodworking, and we live in a bunch of trees up here. So I mean, it doesn't get any better with
That's
woodworking
right.
and mill industry and everything that kind of goes with this type of business. But it is a really peaceful place to live, and
It is.
very calm and easygoing. And you know, the relationships you have in a small town with the different business owners and the people who compliment you and your business and friends, that goes a long ways. That goes deep. So there's a lot to say about that I don't have the words right now to describe, but that's pretty much, those are the main things for me.
Well, thank you. David and Stephanie, I'm going to ask this question of both of you simultaneously, because I know that the decision to be here wasn't made just by one of you. It was a joint decision. So if you guys would like to speak to this would be fantastic.
If you ask David, one person made that decision, and that would be me.
I know. I was hoping you would ask me first so I could steal her answer. Because Hamilton really is what brought us here. I mean, that's the thing that brought us to this area. And so, I mean, I'm kind of speaking for both of you now, but like coming here, I didn't know what we were in for, really. Steph told me we're getting married, and then she didn't tell me we're getting married. She told me the week after we got married, we're going to Manitowoc, Wisconsin. I'd never been here until we came up to actually look for a place to live. But I will say that I have been pleasantly surprised like since we moved here about how inviting and welcoming the art community has been, and how and the scope at which the art community is. I didn't know coming up here how many people we would meet, and we have met lots of people who are in the arts, and I will say that like we probably if I tried to do murals in a much bigger city, we would have probably gotten lost in the shuffle. There's a lot of people who do murals in a lot of bigger cities, and so it would have been harder to get our like kind of the murals off the ground at that point. In a smaller community, they're much more visible. And the other thing is, I think the fact that we've gotten so much mural work really speaks to how engaged the community is with the arts. They've been very accepting and been very positive. And so I think that while I wasn't sure what I was in for coming here, it's been a very pleasant surprise, which has been great. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Steph. I kind of took over.
Here. No,
Awesome. I'm going to have to, we're getting to the end of our time, and I want to be cognizant of that. And I want to make sure that we get this last piece in from everyone. I want to hear from everyone if possible. Just very succinctly, I want you guys to end with one takeaway from tonight's discussion, or one bit of wisdom that you want to pass on to the people who are viewing our program this evening. And so I'm going to start with Erin Labonte.
That's like a big just
No, you get 5 words or less.
My big takeaway is that connect with your community and embrace them, and enjoy where you are, and recognize that the coast here on Lake Michigan has got some really great things going on and some really fantastic creatives, and I'm excited, and be excited to keep meeting them because they just keep popping up.
Fantastic. CJ, what about you?
I took away that along the same lines as Erin, that there are so many, it's such a diverse artistic community just in Two Rivers, which is so amazing. And I'm like already, because I have all your names, going to look at all your stuff. And I'm really excited to look at all your stuff because I mean, I'm also a woodworker, also love to just doodle. Oh man, I'm just really excited for that. What wisdom would I offer? I would probably offer, no, people aren't thinking about you in like a negative way all the time. So if you're nervous or shy or something like that, they aren't. And if they are in a negative way, you don't need them in your life. So why not do what you love and then have people care about you as a person and approach you that way? That's kind of that's what I'd say.
To live by. Thank you. Mr. Knit, what about you?
I am so glad we're kind of ending on this topic because I think this is really the most important one. When we're, I cannot tell you how many different artists and different people, they're not even artists, but different people that have creative ideas have come up to me and said, you know what, I've got this brilliant idea for a screenplay, for a novel, for a painting, for, a dance, for a song, but I don't have time to get it done. I just don't have time. You know what? We've been forced to take time. We now have time that you can create with the time that you have. And I would strongly encourage anyone who wants to make anything, now is the time to really get started on it. And I've been more busy with the pandemic than I've ever been before. But I also see some people, and some people dare to say, I'm bored. Huh? How can you be bored? There's so much to do. I don't get it. So please, be inspired. Everybody out there, use your time. Go and see Brandon's shop. Go to the Type Museum and get your hands on things that you can make, and start being creative with whatever resource you want to, with whatever medium you want to use. Even if you're a dancer, get out there and create some dances. Whatever it is, get involved in some creative aspect of life. Drop the mic. Boom.
I adore you. Anyway, Nate, what about you?
I think if anybody's going to take away anything, it's that, like, art is really just it's a perspective on things. Like, you're doing things in different mediums, but if you have, like, if you have a voice to share or a unique perspective on something, do it. There's to make a business out of it. There's a lot of navigating, being a little bit disciplined and seeing what the community or seeing what the, what your community will support business wise and things like that. But, don't deprive yourself of the ability to share a voice, or deprive the community of the voice that you have to share and the perspective that you have to bring to things. There's the way that things are being, diversified now and things like that too. There's a million ways to get that voice and that art out there. So do it and be persistent about it. And just, get out and share.
Okay, thank you very much. Brandon, what about you?
All right. So let's see. That I guess in the main scheme of things, as talking from a person who started his business at the age of 19, right out of high school.
Did we lose Brandon?
Right at the important part.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like,
man.
and this is the secret to life, and it is boom, gone.
Surround yourself with people.
Really, that's kind of what it was. Oh my
no.
God, he went. Are you back, Brandon? Brandon, are you with us?
Yes. Are you guys still there?
Yes.
You're back? I'm back?
Yes. I'm going to have to, I'm so sorry, since we lost you and we're running out of time.
Sure.
I'm so sorry. Your secret to life will have to wait until we're together again in the future. I'm so sorry. I have to do that. But I would like to ask Stephanie for her takeaway.
Yep, I really loved. I mean, it ties back to what everybody said, but CJ earlier said, "Don't be afraid to fail," and I thought that was really a good piece of advice. Like, it's a good reminder that you have to try things and do things, and sometimes fail, and that's what comes out of it. I thought that was a good piece of advice for all of it, because we're all learning.
Absolutely. And Erin, what about you?
I had already spoken. So
You did.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, and we're losing Brandon again. And he's back. All right. Well, we are down to the wire, and I'd like to bring Mr. Nilsson back in. He was the one who was kind enough and brave enough to get all of us in one room, so to speak. And so, Todd, first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who participated this evening. It was a real joy, and I enjoyed seeing everybody again. So, Todd, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Darla, and absolutely thank you, everybody, for your participation on the panel tonight. There were so many good insights. I was writing down quotes as they were coming out, and so much wisdom, in this group, and such a vibrant art community we have here on the Lakeshore. And I hope that those of you who are tuning into this particular live stream have the chance to share it with some friends, so that they go and check out all of the amazing art scene, arts businesses, creative entrepreneurship that's happening here in northeastern Wisconsin, on the Lakeshore, and all around the region. You guys are wonderful. And just a quick plug before we close off the broadcast here. If you want to catch all of the amazing events that are going on across the state as part of Startup Wisconsin Week, you can go to startupwi.sched.com and see the full listing of events that are coming up. We have 2 others that are coming up in this marketplace. Hope to see you for those. In the meantime, thank you for those of us who joined us for the live stream. Hopefully others will be able to catch this on the replay. And thank you again to all of our panelists, and to you, Darla, for being a long-suffering facilitator, getting through the internet glitches that we had tonight. So with that said, thank you, and we'll end the broadcast here. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good night, folks.
Bye.